Okay, hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, where I go ahead and I describe cybersecurity techniques, tactics, and protocols, so CTPs, and which makes my job more and more fun. So we've been going through the Nmap series. This one is going to be on the advanced port scanning, and this one is going to be dealing with fragmented packets of the advanced port scanning. So what does that mean? Well, this is actually probably one of the more important um, videos you're going to watch on the series, because you're going to be dealing with firewalls and IDS and intrusion detection services and how to bypass them. So strap right in and sit back and relax, watch, and we will be going through this uh, in real time. So let's go with clear, Clara, clear. Okay, so what the object is to be getting past the firewall. How we're going to be doing that is by sending fragmented packets. So, firewall is a piece of software or hardware that permits packets to pass through or blocks them. You'll deal with this in your cybersecurity career if you haven't already. Firewalls will have allow and deny rules. It functions on the base of firewall rules. Summarized by blocking all traffic with the exceptions or allowing all traffic with exceptions. For instance, you might want to block all traffic to your server except those coming from your web server. Traditional firewall inspects at least the IP header and the transport layer header. A more sophisticated firewall would also examine the data coming in and out, or just coming in. IDS, which is an intrusion detective service system, whichever, inspects network packets for selected behavior and patterns or specific content signatures. It raises the alert whenever there's a malicious rule that is met. In addition to the IP header and transport layer header, an IDS would inspect the data contents in the transport layer and check to see if it matches any malicious scripts. How can you make it less likely for traditional firewall and IDS to detect your Nmap activity? Well, it's not so easy to answer this. However, depending on the type of firewall/IDS system you have, you might benefit from dividing the packets into multiple smaller packets. So instead of sending one big packet that says, "Hi, I'm your ITP header, I'm your information coming through, look at me and look what I have," this matches on the signature of a virus or a malware. You can easily sit here and say, well, we're going to break it up. So we're going to sit here and send just a piece of the TCP header, get the SYNAC, and then we're going to send another little piece of it, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So we are going to fragment the packet. So Nmap provides an option of the F flag, or the tag F, to fragment the packet. Once chosen, the IP data will be divided into 8 bits or less. Adding another F, FF, FF will split these into 16-bit fragments instead of 8, and change the default value by using the parameter of MTU. However, you should always choose multiple of 8. That's because this is how our IP header is sent. So a packet of information is sent in this data format. So to properly understand this fragmentation, we will need to look at IP header in the figure below. It might look complicated at first, but if you notice that we know most of its fields, in particular, notice the source is 32 bits long, 4 bits on the 4th row, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Where am I? While the destination address is taking up another 4. So total length, type of service, IHL, and version. So you have your identification, your flags, your fragmented offset, your data being completely sent, your source and your source address, and your destination access. So the data will be fragmented across multiple packets. It's highlighted in red. So here's your data set, and that's what's going to be sent. It's going to be fragmented as it's sent. To aid in the reassembly on the recipient side, IP addresses uses the identification, ID and fragment offset shown on the second row, so the identification and the offset, to help put it back together. So a lot to go over real quick right here, but we're going to do this in the best way we can. So let's compare running sudo ss. Can I do that right now? Oh, come on now. Can I do that right now, or is it? Okay, so we're going to do that. Right now, we're going to run sudo nmap tac ss, which is going to be a syn scan or a stealth scan, depending on how you want to look at it. So we're going to try to bypass that. We're going to run this on port 80. All right, we're going to port 80. Then we are going to grab the IP address. So 10.1080, 30.144. All right, we're going to run that. And basically, this is just going to try to connect to it. And as always, I'm having a bit of an issue. Let me make sure that my IP address is right. Nope. Let me make sure my machine is right. Let's see what my IP address is. So this is not an interactive one. It's just for information. Yeah, because this has nothing to do. Yeah, we're past that. This is booty. Okay, so this is basically just for information purposes only. The first two lines we can see is the ARP scan. So as you can see, ARPS query and response, which is going to be the broadcast saying who's on this network. And then you're going to sit here and see the TPC, the connection, which is going to be on the stealth scan. You're not going to be sending a lot of information. You're not going to try to get there because you're trying to bypass the firewall. You're not going to be sending a lot of information to be pushing traffic to and through. So the second line is just going to be a TCP SYN ping scan and a reply. So it's going to come back. It's going to be sent. It's going to be sent to the 10.20.31, 10.20.30.144, and it's going to come back from 144 back to 10.31. So the fifth line is the beginning of the port scan. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's going to be a TCP scanning on port 80, as it's defined right there. And it's going to send, in this case, the IP header is 20 bytes, and the TCP is 24. The TCP header is 24. Note the minimum size of the TCP header is 20. All right. So with fragmented F TAC, the 24 bytes of the TCP header will be divided into multiple of 4. The last fragmented containing 8 bytes or less of the did I say bytes or bits? Bytes, 24 bytes, okay. 8 bytes of the TCP header. Since 24 is divisible by 8, we get 3 packets, which each 20 bytes of IP header and 8 bytes of an TCP header, where you can see the 3 fragments between the 5th and the 7th line. Note that if you add an FF or an FF, it's going to be divided even further. So it's will be multiplied by 16. In other words, in 24 bytes of the TCP header, in this case, will be divided over 2 IP fragments, the first containing 16 bytes, the second containing 8 bytes. So I hate math. I always hate this kind of stuff. I always just kind of try to use the F flag when I'm trying to bypass firewalls. This is one of those rooms that should have done a little bit more to try to do firewall bypass stuff, but this is the basic theory behind it. So then if you added FF, on the other hand, if you prefer to increase the size of your packet and make them look innocuous, you can use the max data length, where the number specifies the total bytes you want to append to your packets. If the TCP packet is 64, 64 divided, let's go with 8. Is that right? Oh. So if the TCP packet size that, FF is multiples of 16, so what is that? How many IP packets we get? Let's go 4. And that's that. So I'll outline this a little bit better in a different room, but if you wanted to go ahead and go, I wouldn't recommend you playing with this if you're not in a lab environment. But if you want to do your fragmented packets, you would run the basic Nmap scan of Nmap. We'll go with attack S, right? And we're going to go with attack F. So we're going to be fragmenting the packet into 8 bits. And then you would go in your IP address or whatever that might be. And that will send fragmented packets to your IP address. It's good for bypassing firewalls and seeing what firewall rules are you can get away with. So I wish there was more stuff in this video that would be useful, not just theory. I really kind of just hate theory because I do believe that your best way to teach is to have practice and knowledge in action. But we will go into this in another video, I promise, and you will definitely run into it within your pen testing career. So if you like the video, like, comment, subscribe. Comment more so than anything else because your comments definitely help me out. And